Hello.
Welcome everyone. Just take a couple more seconds to let everybody join in. Some people are still flooding the room here. But as we wait, I'm going to go ahead and take over your screen. I'm going to share my screen really quickly, and then we'll get started. All right. Well, thanks for joining us for another fitness roundtable. We're really glad to see you this definitely afternoon or evening for everyone, depending on where you are in the world today. Hopefully you can all see my screen. My name is Cheyanne Clouse. I'm currently the second year fitness graduate assistant at the University of Mississippi. And you're almost out the door, current NIRSA student leader. We'll have a new NIRSA student leader coming in just a couple days, but my last couple weeks get to hang out on some roundtables.
Woo! And I'm Anna Taggart. I'm the fitness director at Texas A&M University. So happy to be here.
If you guys want to, just drop in the chat who you are and where you're from today. We'd love to see who's on the call with us. And we'll go ahead and get into this. Before we get started, if my screen won't move. There we go. Sorry about that, it was a little frozen. As we get into this, I just want to give you guys an overview that this session is being recorded and will be posted on the NIRSA Ideas in Motion webpage. You were muted when you came in, so if you would just ensure that you stay muted unless you want to talk. If at any point you want to talk and add to our conversation, please unmute yourself and jump in. You can also use the chat box like you're doing right now to drop some questions or comments in there. We will be monitoring the chat box, so if we don't address your question right away, I will be copying and pasting them into a document, so we'll make sure to circle back to them. And continue to utilize NIRSA Connect, or for fitness specifically, our Collegiate Fitness Director's Facebook page for further conversation and resource sharing. If you have questions about any of those resources, feel free to ask Anna or myself. Some guidelines for today's participation. We just want to make sure that everyone is respectful of each other and understanding that everyone's opinions, thoughts, and viewpoints are their own. We want to make sure that this room is a no judgment space and we're welcoming all ideas. We also want to acknowledge that every university and every situation is different. So what we talk about today is not a one size fits all. You will have to change things depending on your institution and what's going on in your life. And then we want to make sure we avoid specific comments on COVID-19 symptoms, quarantine responses, and or government responses. We will have a small section today at the end where we do talk about some specific COVID-19 stuff, but we want to look at like some big picture ideas with this. As we continue, I want to just let you know some topics that we covered in our previous roundtables. I don't know why my computer is freezing. Here we go. So on our first roundtable, we talked about virtual group fitness classes, so music, platforms, methods, personal training, so technology, tracking and assessment of those. We talked about refunds of passes, sessions, and fees, and you can find that on the NIRSA Ideas in Motion webpage. And then last week, we covered some liability stuff, accessibility, and more specifically, closed captioning. We talked about staff engagement, so virtual banquets and employee recognition. And we got into a little bit of community engagement and supporting some local studios. So these are topics we do want to try and avoid today, as we have a whole list of additional topics to talk about. So we'll go ahead and get started right away. Anna?
Awesome. So the first thing we wanted to talk about, it's kind of three different topics, but obviously they're all very related. So obviously everyone's probably experiencing different situations in regards to hiring, but what are you all doing moving forward or in regards to interviewing, or if you were in the middle of hiring, specifically maybe auditioning for group fitness, and then onboarding both students graduate assistants, professional staff, and then once you, maybe you're in a certain process on this spectrum, training. So training for new staff in the fall, specifically transitioning to as well. So I know there was someone who mentioned graduate assistants, and if you have an outgoing GA, what are you doing for them? Or if you have an incoming GA, how are you going to help them transition in the fall? And then just overall, if people have new ideas and how they're doing these things virtually, we'd love to hear.
Well, I can talk and tell you a little bit about some of the conversations had. So we have our student employees go through a job fair in order to get our applications. And so we've had to have some conversations about what that job fair will look like. It usually brings in massive amounts of people. And once we recover from all of this the virtual world we're living in, we probably are still going to want to minimize that large number of people in one room. So trying to come up with alternative solutions. Maybe this time we give our application out in a public link versus having the job fair. So kind of still working through all of that.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of people are mentioning in the chat box that they're in a hiring freeze. I know at Texas A&M we are as well, except for anyone who is already in the process of being onboarded. So if you are in the middle of this hiring freeze, what are people doing in regards to training for new staff? Or if you were in the middle of training your staff, are you all having to wait to hire them and onboard them? Or what does your process look like now?
Hey, Lisa Williamson from the University of Georgia. We are actually in a hiring freeze, but we are able to make conditional offers to students for the fall. So we're planning on following our normal hiring process. It'll just be moved virtual. So we'll do Zoom interviews, and then with group fitness instructors, we will have them do a demo section of a class via Zoom as well. So that's kind of what we're doing for that aspect. We do have anybody apply as a personal trainer, we are going to follow the same thing. We'll give them a mock client as we normally do, and we'll go through that workout with them and what they chose for that via Zoom. For our fitness monitors, we probably aren't currently going to be hiring until we get closer to the summer. But with that, if we need to, we'll also conduct interviews via Zoom. So that's kind of the plan for now, and how we're planning on moving forward with it. So, yeah.
Awesome, thanks.
Is anything, Lisa, is anything changing besides moving it virtual for your hiring process? Are you having to adjust like timelines or questions or procedures of that process? Or is it just what you are doing now, just virtual?
As of right now, what we are doing just virtual. We haven't had anyone really applying all that much in the present moment, but I anticipate that as we get closer towards summer, we will. Like I said, we're able to do those conditional offers and then get them onboarded and everything when we end up reopening for the fall. With the hiring process, though, another thing that I didn't mention earlier was our training process. So with our big fall training, we were actually last year moved about half of it online in the form of videos that they needed to watch prior to coming to the actual in-person training. So I anticipate that will be fairly easy if we do need to move everything virtually there to just kind of continue what we had started. So that's kind of what we did for training as well.
Is anyone doing anything specific to assist their graduate assistants in transitioning to full-time professional jobs. Obviously, that's a challenge considering the hiring freezes that they're facing as well. Or assisting maybe incoming GAs or even transitioning GAs to their second year, during this process. Any ideas for that?
I think the whole onboarding process is going to be really interesting. So I'm obviously a second year graduate assistant, so I'm on my way out, but I'm pretty concerned for the graduate assistants that are on their way to Oxford to join our staff. I had a really awesome onboarding experience, and so I'm sad for them that they won't get to have that same experience, but I think we can take from some of our maybe intramural friends who do some basic electronic training methods and use those in onboarding your graduate assistants. I know for me, I saw someone mention this about doing virtual trainings. Annalisa, I see, mentioned it from Springfield, that she's working with her incoming GA via Zoom. I'd love to hear kind of how that's going. Personally, I don't know if I would do a great job learning something virtually because I'm more of like a hands-on person. I want to try it. So if you want to talk about how that's going for you, I'd love that.
Hi, so Annalisa here. So I was very fortunate that my incoming GA was already a personal trainer at our school. So she had a little bit of understanding kind of what was going on campus, and kind of understood the position a little bit more than most GAs would who are coming in onto campus for the first time. A lot of it is really making sure that she can kind of understand why she needs to know certain parts of the manual and how it applies to the job. So for example, we're a little bit behind on our payroll system in terms of a lot of it is still writing it in a binder and making sure that things match up. And it's one thing to read it just on the electronic manual, which we sent to her, but for coming from the previous GA, it's someone being even though it says do it every 2 weeks or every other week, you want to do it weekly, because students tend to either forget or they mess up things to look out for. So I do my best in terms of breaking it down week to week. I do about an hour a week with her. And I section off the manual so that way it's not everything coming to her at once. Because I felt like that was, even though she's been on campus, that's a lot for her to take in. I think that if you do have a GA that is coming in for the first time, if you are an outgoing GA like myself, as much real experience as you can kind of explain to them as to what is important with the manual and why they need to know even the little details and experiences that you have had is just super important. And even if it's something that might have been a small thing, but it made a big difference in the long run, really making sure you bring that into those kind of conversations and give them as much info as possible. Also taking a look at the manual itself now and really going into detail, applying any kind of pictures you can. If you're doing the Zoom meetings, sharing the screen and showing them step-by-step process of how to do payroll and stuff like that, as detailed as possible is all I can say. And I know that for her that's been very helpful, because she was able to ask questions per section on the manual versus just trying to take it all in at once and it just being very overwhelming.
Awesome, thanks. So on staff training, does anyone have any ideas or creative or new ideas that y'all are thinking about doing virtually? If you do any type of summer training, or even in the fall, come August, in services and things like that, or is anyone starting to think about their fall trainings and what that might look like? I know from my side of things at Texas A&M, we usually do our spring fitness instructor training, and we have put a hold on that just because of getting the whole process online. We did not have the ability to do that, so we are looking at doing some sort of virtual training maybe this summer, or even auditioning staff and then training them in the fall type of thing. So I know for us that's going to look different. Everyone's probably is going to look different. Lisa, you mentioned that you're talking a lot with your university or your rec center on reopening procedures and fall training. Did you want to talk more about that?
Sure. We're still in the kind of the preliminary stages, but this is something that our directors kind of tasked us all to do, is figure out, okay, what would it look like if we did open July 1 or August 1? I think that's really what we're looking at at this point. But for right now, we're just really trying to outline, what would group fitness look like if we had to maintain social distancing in the fall, and what would personal training look like, and what are some things that we would need to consider there. So like for us, thinking about, do we have instructors pre-set up the room so that only a certain number of individuals can participate in keeping everyone 6 foot apart. So like if it's a yoga class, do we set up mats 6 feet apart, and then once each mat is full, the class is full? Or do we take the square footage of the room and, divide that by 6 feet and then figure out how many people we can have in that room? And so kind of looking at some of those things. And then also our check-in procedures for classes. Right now, we check in participants at the door with a fitness monitor through Fusion. And so that how will that look maybe a little bit different as we welcome people into class. So we're kind of exploring all of those things, as well as with personal training, having specific hours that are available to train in our functional training space, and then limiting the number of trainer-client pairs that are able to be in that space at a given time, just to maintain appropriate social distancing measures. So those are kind of some general ideas that we had initially.
Awesome. Yeah, Carrie, you mentioned the ACE prep course and sitting for exams. I know that that's a challenge for us as well. ACE has right now the certification exams have been rescheduled or keep getting rescheduled. I know for my staff, and so that puts a delay on them being able to teach or train as well.
Yeah, so we recently talked similarly to Lisa about capacities. And so are we going to have to do things to limit capacities of people in our spaces? So if we go back to no larger, like you can be in groups, but no larger than 50, are we going to have to count heads into our facility? Kind of what is all that going to look like? John had a question about using some sort of software to hold registrations for classes to limit sizes. I think that that's a great method. With that and limiting class sizes, it kind of lends my brain to think we're going to have to add more classes to schedules, because you're going to have limited number of seats. So where like we have 50 classes a week and you can have up to 25 people in your class, or depending on what studio I'm in, or 20 people in cycle, am I going to have to double the amount of cycle classes and only have 10 people? But if I can't hire instructors because they can't pass their ACE exam or frozen, I think that brings up a lot of questions.
Yeah. Yeah, Fusion. I see people mentioning Fusion IM leagues. You can also specify your class numbers. So if you want to do less people in a class, you can use that, or some of those services to limit class size. But yeah, Cheyanne, I didn't think about that in regards to adding more classes because of the decrease in participation, and that's a good point. Courtney, I'm not sure if ACE is doing at-home proctored exams. I've heard some instructors mention that they would love to do that, but I'm not I haven't heard anything about if that's official yet. Not sure. And yes, Jade, that's same situation we're in, is training staff who haven't had the hands-on, like actual practice with the skills. So concerned about them being behind or type of thing. I know we at Texas A&M with fitness are very focused on teaching to the beat of the music. And so obviously that's challenging via Zoom or any type of virtual platform.
Yeah, it's something we're a little bit concerned about as well, because even those instructors who maybe are still doing their own in-home fitness, or they're still, you know, filming workouts for Instagram pages, it's just such a different environment than being in the studio and teaching, you know, with the equipment that we have, the practices that we like them to work on. So at this point for our facility, we really don't know where we lie with summer programming. We're not banking on it by any means. So we truly are going to have those instructors back who haven't been teaching for 5 or 6 months, and that's definitely a concern.
Mm-hmm.
Sandra, I want to take a moment to acknowledge your question in the chat and let you know we have a full slide for virtual programming. So we will have plenty of time to talk about virtual programming and continuing it after in-person resumes. You're welcome. So here's our next topics: events and marketing.
So in regards to this topic, welcome events. So like I know at Texas A&M, we do a big Recapalooza in August. We haven't even talked about what that's going to look like or if that's going to happen. That's like our first week of, it's like a freshman welcome event. I'm sure lots of others, universities do that as well, or some sort of orientation for their staff. Special events. Is anyone doing anything this summer or this spring? I know Cheyenne's got a cool one that they did. Did you do it already?
Oh, I filmed it yesterday. I'm currently working on the closed captioning.
That takes forever, yeah.
We were planning on hosting a pop-up group fitness class called Yoga Under the Stars. So I set my balcony up with like twinkle Christmas lights and made it look like there were stars, and I kind of taught it at sunset, filmed myself teaching the class, and then we'll post it on our Facebook page and kind of on our website and hopefully everywhere. And everyone can yoga under the stars with me, whether they want to do it at night or not. We'll all go live, and it's pre-recorded, but we'll post it. So we're still trying to continue our special events just virtually. Oh, Liz, good point. You want to talk about that?
Sure. So my name's Liz. I'm the Assistant Director of Strength Training and Conditioning at UNC Charlotte, and we've had this conversation both for our big kickoff event at the beginning of the school year called Rec Fest, same thing that Anna was talking about, Texas A&M does. It's where our sport clubs come out. They demonstrate all of their club activities and signups and registrations. We highlight all of our intramural programming, our group fitness classes, personal training services, and then a lot of our local vendors that are either like food-based or just some other services right around the campus often come to that event and they table. And so they bring either promotional items or they do sponsorship donations, monetary donations to us. So we get a lot of funding out of that event, and we're a little nervous because upcoming sponsorships may be dwindling with companies either losing money or not seeing a lot of business in this current situation. And the same conversations have occurred because UNC Charlotte is supposed to be hosting NIRSA, the state workshop, in October. So we're also having similar conversations of we were going to reach out to a bunch of our normal sponsors, and we're just kind of not sure what's going to come of that because we don't know what the companies are going to be able to financially afford or reasonably afford. And then that could obviously drive up things like registration costs and some other issues.
Thanks. I think what Sarah said is hits the nail on the head. We're supposed to be planning these events as if they're going to happen, but also as if they're going to be virtual. So how do you try to navigate both of those things? Any advice, Sarah? Oh, maybe she's not here. Seems I'm not getting any advice.
Oh, okay.
So kind of to go off of what Liz was saying, sorry, you hear our Zoom group fitness class going on. I had to get that started on my phone. So kind of what Liz was talking about in regards to moving things as if they're supposed to go as normal. A lot of the things that we've been worrying about has been the budget for the most part, so kind of going along the lines of the sponsorships. So especially for like our state workshop, we're kind of going with the assumption that we may need to find like moderations when it comes to serving lunch or having food or catering at a lot of these events, and hoping to work better with the university from that standpoint too. So just playing around with a lot of what that might look like. I know it's not directly referring to it being virtual, but just knowing that we may be losing out on a lot of other opportunities from that standpoint with sponsorships and the payment of things. So if you all have the state workshops coming up, you may have to be understanding that the registration rates might be a little bit higher just because of lack of being able to use local businesses for those kind of sponsorships.
Yeah, makes sense.
How about marketing?
Marketing for special events, is that what, or for events
Just
in general?
I guess, like there's a lot of content going out right now because you're hosting your virtual classes.
Over
then, like,
marketing.
we're also right. We're also doing special events. So like, are there strategies? We're trying to engage people. How's everyone feeling in terms of that? Oh, over Courtney, over marketing. Yes. How would, okay, Courtney, I'm going to ask you a question. We're over marketing, but
Yes.
does that mean we're over programming too?
I think that's a really good question. So I think for us, the biggest struggle that we're seeing is we're trying to push out as much content as we can per day. But one thing that we've really been looking into is our social media analytics. And we've noticed that the more we post, the less people are seeing our posts on their timeline. So that's how Instagram, Facebook works. If you're posting more and more on your account, you're not going to come to the top of people's feeds. So we've seen like where our IGTV videos were having over 1,000 views in a day, we've cut that by more than 50% because we've started posting more content, not just specifically to fitness, but we share our social media with our program. So all of our other programs are posting as well. So I think the question of are we over programming is a good one, but it's also a hard one to answer because we want to still be engaging and interact with our patrons as well as our students. So it's tough for sure.
Yeah. Cece, do you want to talk about the opt-in email that's been helpful for y'all?
Yeah, sure. So at the beginning of all of this, when we initially decided what programming, we landed on that we were going to do pre-recording classes and not live classes. Our marketing team decided that the opt-in email has been the best option to receive the notifications when those things are going to come up. So less posting on platforms because our audience isn't just our students. We have community members, faculty and staff, all of those people who still want to see our classes, and not all the time are they on social media platforms. So that opt-in feature that you can easily do through Mailchimp and things like that, that has shown the best process. That has been the best process for us when notifying people that we're launching these 2 new videos this week, or this is what you can expect this next coming week, and things like that, because those are the people that want to know and are invested in the program. And we're going to have the option to re-opt in for those who did not get the chance the first time this next coming week, so that will help as well.
Awesome.
Cool. Anyone else have anything on marketing, maybe some strategies that they're using or some barriers that they're facing?
Tess mentioned the marketing roundtable as well was very helpful. Yay.
Yeah. So something that we've been doing at UNC Charlotte is we've actually gotten together as a whole student affairs unit, and we've actually created a landing page for all virtual programming for all student affairs, whether it's the equity and inclusion area, Greek life, all of those. We've actually just made one giant landing page that we're sending everybody to, since we know for campus recreation, for instance, we may be only hitting our social media followers right now, as opposed to we could be hitting on a lot more people who follow counseling and psychological services or something like that.
Awesome. Tori, could you put that link in the chat for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just went live, so
Okay.
I have to check that out. But yeah, I'll do that for you.
Cool, thank you. And sorry, Tess, did you want to mention the marketing roundtable that you were talking about real quick?
Yeah, I'm actually the fitness coordinator, but I do all the marketing for our department too. So I've kept pretty busy. But with that, some things that were really helpful is that people were saying just posting one thing in the beginning of the week of all that's going on, because it is getting really oversaturated, and I'm trying to post at maybe one thing a day, and I'm trying to tag other departments, and then I'm bogging down the other departments, but I want students to get to see all these things. But also just trying to balance between all the programs, because we only have one campus rack social media page, so everything is in one spot, which usually is really beneficial, but when there's so much we're trying to do and push out one time, it gets really oversaturated. But a lot that was mentioned is just notice that there's not much engagement on the weekends. It's mostly during the week. And then just trying to get pictures up too, which I saw someone mention in the chat. A lot of people are doing like senior Sundays, but also being mindful of the pictures that are being posted up, so that we're not doing a ton of group things and potentially triggering students, or some of that little bit of FOMO too, or just like, oh, look what you can't do right now. And so those are kind of the main things fitness related, but there was some good information and a lot from marketers of just like, we need a little bit of help from you, but there's only so much we can do. And so, but yeah, it was an interesting conversation to listen in on.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah.
I know there was a comment in the Collegiate Fitness Directors page about other maybe departments or program areas on campus that were doing marketing or doing like sharing fitness videos or things like that. Are other people working like collaboratively, or are you all seeing at your university other departments posting or doing their own thing?
So that was me, Lisa Williamson.
Yeah, Lisa.
For us, we have a little bit of a mix of both. We've been working really well with our health promotion department, so we're trying to share resources there, and we're finally just now getting to the point where we are able to do that. Initially, there wasn't a lot of communication, and so I think they offered some yoga stuff, and they were offering some other things, and we've been limited on what we can offer. So that was just kind of the nature of the post. We've seen some RAs also doing some Zoom workouts, so that's been interesting. But we haven't been able to do any Zoom workouts or any like 1 hour live or pre-recorded workouts. We're just focusing on Instagram and kind of 1 minute short, quick workout videos, demonstrations, and then listing the workout out on Instagram so people can see it that way. And that's really all we've been able to offer. So that's kind of what I was wondering as well. Is anybody else kind of going through that with other departments offering similar fitness classes to maybe what you're offering, or any other services like that? So
this is Amber over at University of Illinois Springfield. So we actually are collaborating as much as we can. So for example, our volunteer services is doing a 30 deeds in 30 days. One of the things she wanted to do was a group X. So she emailed me, and she's using my instructor. So still kind of her own thing, but we're trying to work together as much as possible right now, pretty much anybody in student life. And then I'm working with health services right now with a nutritionist to do a nutrition Zoom thing on another quarantine 15. So
My new favorite phrase, Amber, is quarantoned.
Oh,
My new favorite.
I like that one too. I'm all about the new phrases. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, instead of the quarantine 15, I'm going quarantoned.
Nice. I like the comment Lauren Corley mentioned about working in marketing and fitness. Because I agree with you. It's difficult because I feel like my staff specifically too, the ones who are already super engaged and are wanting to do more are doing more and everything they can, but then I've really lost a lot, probably about half of my staff who's not actually working, or being as as engaged as they maybe would have been before, particularly for my faculty staff instructors. So I'm just curious, posing to the group, what types of things are y'all doing to maybe stay connected with all of your staff, versus if you do have a certain amount that are working and a certain amount who aren't working, or specifically for those who maybe don't have their staff working at all. And then my other question is, if you have faculty, staff, instructors, or non-student instructors, what are you all doing to continue to engage with those staff members?
I can
And yes, Whitney, I
answer.
will share my screen. Sorry.
Very good. I can kind of speak to some of that. So actually, just last night we had a continuing education 2-hour workshop with all of our staff that I think I've brought her name up a couple of times, Shannon Briggs. She's a CEU provider. So last night we were able to offer our staff time to get paid as well as CEUs, and that kind of brought everybody together. Almost all of them were there, and that kind of helped re-spark the initiative of like working and doing things and completing tasks. So if there's a way that you can incentivize getting together and then developing and talking about how the future is going to play out and what they can do to be more engaged, I think getting in front of them was the best way to do it, because that kept them the most engaged and wanting, and it kind of re-sparked the want to be involved, if that makes sense.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks.
I got a question, I guess, on the chat. Wow. How did I set up doing a virtual CEU? Yeah, so Shannon is a non-student who works for us, and she submitted via ACE her workshop that she wanted to do, and it's actually titled "The Knee Clear as Mud," which is so funny, but she's worked a lot with clients who have knee issues, and she was able to provide those CEUs for our staff. So if that helps. But we actually applied for another instructor to do a kettlebell workshop using his backpack through ACE, NASM, and AFA, and that got approved. So we'll be providing that later on this semester for our staff as well.
Awesome.
Cool. We'll continue on.
Yeah.
My thing loads. It's a little slow today, everyone. I'm really sorry. As I click things, it doesn't actually change screens. Not really sure what's going on. There, too fast. There we go.
Amber Pie again. For our students, we meet once a week through Zoom. And then because our university has agreed to pay our students, even though they're not working, which is awesome, I kind of wanted to get them some, I don't know what you want to call it, incentive to still be getting paid, I guess. So they do have a kind of a professional development task each week, something that relates to campus rec in some way. And then also possibly for those who are graduating, some career development. So like currently they're working on 3 different emergency scenarios with the Red Cross app that could happen at campus rec, and they got to do like a little reflection for me. So just not a lot, but connecting with them once a week, and then just kind of asking them to do a small task just so they have to, I don't know, talk to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So this,
Oh, go ahead.
This next topic kind of circles back to Sandra's question earlier. Told you we would get to it. So what's it going to look like when we get back in person? And now we've just developed all of these really cool virtual resources. Do we just like put them in our pocket for the next time that we hopefully never have to do this again? Or are we going to find some way to implement them? What have you guys been talking about? What thoughts, ideas, questions do you have?
Ooh, lots of things.
I know.
Yeah, I know for us at Texas A&M, we are still wanting to continue virtual classes at least through the summer. We know we're going to be doing that, the live and the recorded classes, but I imagine us continuing it as well. Right now, we're just trying to figure out what pricing is going to look like for that, and how we're going to have people sign up for it and whatnot.
Are you going to have this on your regular group fitness schedule? Will this be a supplemental group fitness schedule? Will you have the option to buy either one or both? I've got a lot of questions.
Those are all great questions because we don't know yet. We don't know yet.
And
yeah.
Or other questions?
Paul Kukowski from LSU. I know right now the only recorded content that we have outside of what we've put out over the last 3 weeks has been YouTube videos of group fitness classes from 2015 that you'd have to scroll all the way back to the initial videos posted for our YouTube channel. So we've made an emphasis that once we can get back into the facility and get our instructors back on stage, that we will put a major emphasis on filming those classes with or without participants to make sure that we have a whole backlog and library of all of that. That's something that we noticed that we obviously missed over the last few years. And so that's going to be something that's priority number one when we can get back in there. And then I think the way we're seeing our numbers blow up right now when it comes to the virtual group fitness classes, we're definitely going to have to offer this in some capacity in the fall moving forward, especially since we don't know what this landscape is going to continue to look like once we do get back into the facility.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know we're in a similar situation. We had a ton of old YouTube videos as well, and from even before 2015, I think like early 2000s. And not that they were bad, it's just they were definitely, you could tell, older. But I think that one of the challenges we've run into with the recorded classes too, and I'm sure we've discussed it, is like captioning and the process that it takes to caption videos. And so right now we're even trying to build a big basis of recorded classes on our YouTube so that we can maybe eventually say, we have enough videos now, like to go forward, and can put a pause on filming more due to the time it takes to get the captioning piece done.
Hi folks, Pat from Iowa. I was in a Zoom meeting with some of my instructors yesterday, and of course this topic came up. Are we going to continue to do them? And so I just wanted to hear comments from everyone. And one of the suggestions that came out of it was, because not everyone has made a video or on Zoom or whatever at this point in time, to possibly use whoever wants to make a video to use this time to introduce themselves, which they do anyway before the class begins, and then just a small snippet, maybe 15-20 minutes of the class, so they can see the style or the type of class that is being taught, and to encourage them to come into the facility. But yet we will still have the entire video, because unlike many of your warmer states, in Iowa during the wintertime, we have to shut down sometimes, and our instructors may not be able to get to the classes or whatever. So this would be a good opportunity to put some of these classes online virtually, to pull them out of our bank, if you would. And I thought that was a great idea, because we don't want to lose. We need to expand our newest facility. We've outgrown it already, and numbers coming into the facility make a big difference for us. And we will have to come up with some way of tagging and in just making it so only those University of Iowa students or members would have access to any of these videos when they come up. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so it sounds like most people are saying most people that are doing some sort of virtual programming, which I think most of us are trying to do that in some sort of way, or are trying to figure out how we can continue this, because we all have realized that maybe some sooner than others of us have realized that this is reaching more people. And, you know, I think that's our ultimate goal as a whole, especially for people who have a lot of commuter students or just, you know, virtual in general, you know, with this generation, I think is awesome. And I think it sounds like most of us are trying to figure out pricing. And that's kind of our boat as well, is figuring out, we do charge for group fitness right now and personal training. And so we want to continue doing that in some way, shape, or form. Right now, all of our group fitness classes are free, but and in the summer, I imagine we will move to some sort of platform for purchase.
Yeah. I think the hope of these roundtables is that you can find someone and connect with someone who's going through something similar, trying to figure out those similar logistics, maybe at an institution of a similar size, and that off of these roundtables, you're able to connect with them and use each other to bounce ideas off of, and so that you're not going through this and figuring out alone every single time. If someone's found an answer to a problem that you might have, the hope is that you don't have to solve the problem alone. So all these questions that we bring up, your answers are really important because they're helping someone on this call answer some question that they might have. So keep that in mind, and please don't be afraid to share, even if it's an unknown.
That these roundtables continue even after we do finally get back into our facilities, because we're going to be experiencing something different. And it'd be awesome to be able to share and reach out to one another again.
Definitely. Yeah, I know that Sandra mentioned about fears of students not returning back. I think that my hope is they will come back. My heart's in group fitness, and I've been struggling with the virtual world myself. I'm not super motivated by it. So I know I miss that in-person experience, and I'm certain there's others out there like that as well. So,
Anna, I don't know about you, but I was more nervous teaching my virtual group fitness class than I was teaching an actual group fitness class. Yeah. So I really hope in-person classes start again so that I can get that adrenaline spike to teach my class versus sitting and staring at myself on the screen.
Yes.
All right.
Kara mentioned Cheyanne Fable. That may have been in the group fitness. I'm trying to think of the name of that group. There's a Facebook group that Cheyanne Fable manages. Cheyanne Fable's been in the field for a long time in the industry, and she has a lot of knowledge and experience to contribute. So definitely would say, if you don't know who she is, to look into her or reach out to her as well.
We kind of talked about this earlier, right? So, want to move past this, or do you want to talk about this again?
I guess if there's any other questions or discussion that people wanted to bring up in regards to transitioning. I know that was a big topic on the Facebook, the Collegiate Fitness Instructors Facebook page. And I believe there's a call tomorrow, Fit Friday chat on this topic. So, you know, we don't have to spend a lot of time here, but if there's certain things that people wanted to share that they've talked about with their institutions, we'd love to hear.
And one thing that we're in conversations with right now across campus with the health center is bringing in our registered dietitian to start having kind of like a podcast style Zoom call about having kind of a question and answer session so that it's not just fitness output, because we've been putting out so much information. We want to gather some input as well from both our patrons, our users, so where they can email in questions, so that it's kind of a scheduled time, like, hey, we're going to go through a lot of these questions with the expert on campus. And we will be the hosts of it because we have that marketing output that we can do. But we can gather the input from a lot of our users and people who are watching a lot of our classes, but might not have a voice right now or might not be able to get all of their questions answered. So we're looking into ways to kind of gather that input and find our resources on campus and kind of showcase them a little bit better than we have in the past.
That's awesome.
Sandra, I see your question about liability. We had a pretty lengthy discussion about waivers and some different things on our call last week. So you can find the chat where people dropped in information about different ways that they're handling liability and stuff on that pre-recorded webinar as well. So the floor is yours, everyone. We want to leave this last couple moments for just questions that you guys have for the greater group, potential barriers that you are facing at your institutions. Whatever you got, let's hear it.
Hey, this is Ann Hoover from Michigan Tech University. And can you hear me?
Yes, hi Ann.
Yeah.
This is Sure, hi. So we are on the upper peninsula of Michigan. And so I guess all I wanted to say was, you know, having gone through this whole virtual experience, that I think it's going to be a great tool for us, especially in the summer when I'm the fitness manager. So I do all the hiring for our different departments in our rec building. And, you know, one of the biggest obstacles I have every single summer is we have a lot of students that come up to our school, our university from Detroit, from all the different areas of Lower Peninsula. And sometimes that's an average of it. So Michigan's a very long state, as Texas is. And we have like them traveling between 7 to 10 hours. So a lot of the summers, they're not getting up here until either freshman week, you know, O week, we call it, orientation week, or, you know, later into the, like right before school starts. So we find it a real challenge, you know, when you're trying to hire all these new applicants, getting them trained in, and we're going through that, you know, rush phase that first week of school. And so I'm realizing more and more how great this virtual, you know, recordings and trainings will really come in handy, so that we have an opportunity to not only pre-record, because there's going to be a phase where I'm sure staff is going to be allowed in the buildings prior to all the other phases. And I'm even thinking about myself going, wow, this is an opportunity to go into our fitness center, go and do these things and create some pre-recorded training sessions that are going to benefit me when it comes time to a lot of that summer hiring and getting people trained in early. So when they come up, they're going to have so much more familiarity. It's already hard being a freshman and then coming in and trying to adjust to a new job, you know, and all that. So I'm excited knowing that this is something that we can use obviously beyond this crisis. So just wanted to say that.
And when this whole thing started, I had the same thought. I was like, man, I can't wait to take videos of how to use every single piece of equipment in the facility, because there's going to be nobody there. Haven't gotten to do it yet. Maybe one day. We stayed at home before we had the opportunity to do that. But my mind was in the same spot. I was like, instructional videos forever. This will have to be postponed.
I know, pretty cool. And even doing the orientations that we do with our policy manual, being able to, you know, do scenario things that we can record, you know, and you know, kind of figure out that way they come up having a lot more familiarity. So cool, like mind.
This was just very random. When she said manuals, I kind of thought of this. We require all of our student staff to be CPR certified.
Yeah.
I'm curious of how we're gonna do that, and like, how do I make it so that my CPR certification doesn't lapse if it's in this time, so I don't have to sit through the whole course again?
Good question.
Don't know. Mine expires soon though.
I know. Me too. Lindsay's asking if there's a platform that people are using to develop these online virtual trainings for their staff.
we've been using Zoom. That's obviously been talked about a lot. And there's a lot of platforms, it sounds like. I've been kind of taking log of everything, but it's kind of nice to know that you can do so many things, you know, besides just the meetings. You can do the pre-recordings, training sessions, whatever, classes.
Yeah, I know Liz mentioned the using your university's platform. So whether you have your university uses Canva or Blackboard or something like that as well.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And isn't the American Red Cross giving an extension if your certification is about to expire of like 60 or 90 days because of COVID?
That would be great, but I don't know.
That sounds lovely. Oh, Cece,
Oh, yeah,
yes.
Cece
Courtney,
just
yes.
said, yes, American Red Cross is doing that. So you might want to check in with them.
Hey, my name's Jake. I'm the aquatics coordinator with Georgia State University, and I'm on the risk management staff. So on the side of Red Cross, they're actually doing a 120-day extension for lifeguarding and CPR for the professional rescuer, but they haven't done what you have to apply for. But they haven't done an extension on CPR and first aid for lay responder yet.
Jacob, correct me if I'm wrong, but are they allowing online blended training to happen, and then when you get back in the facility to complete the rest of the certification, you just have to have that in-person piece, right? So you can do half of it online for now, and then the rest can wait until later on, right?
Right, and I think there's still a 90-day window for that too. But something that we're discussing now too is what we're not sure how long or when any of our universities are going to reopen, and then if we're going to be able to, how we're going to be able to conduct some of these safety classes too, given any type of social distancing that might still be in place by keeping our instructors still safe.
It's like we got a link, so I'm gonna check that out after this.
Cece mentioned, has anyone thought about working with a company to package at-home equipment? Cece, are you talking about like, so that people have access to like dumbbells and resistance bands and things like that for their own workouts?
Yeah, so
that's a good idea.
We so this was just brought up at one of our meetings. We have an innovation committee at UT Austin. So we were just brainstorming with someone on our facilities. Is like, we don't want to rent out the equipment, right, that is in our facilities necessarily, but is there a way like we could work with a company where because not everybody has equipment at home, right? And I'm guessing everybody's doing everything body weight right now, but at some point, you know, you want to have that resistance-based training, right? As we all know as fitness professionals. So how do we kind of get those tools to people? And it was just something that we were thinking of exploring eventually. And is that, you know, could we help package that and get it to our students and faculty and staff or whoever that is in the long run when we continue this virtual. And I'm not talking dumbbells, I'm talking like easy stuff like gliders and resistance bands, things that are reasonable.
Yeah.
I know there's like a shortage of everything in every company. I've been trying to buy a weight vest since the day this started, and I have not been able to find one. So like,
yeah, of course. And I think that this is a long-term thought, right? So it's not necessarily like a right now solution, but you know, long-term, even when all of this is lifted, you know, how in our programming can we also supply that for people long?
Yeah, it's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea, and it might be worth contacting some vendors and saying, have you given any thought to at homes, the gliding disc, tubing, or a band, little things that aren't going to be real expensive for individuals to have at their home. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of them aren't working on it right now, but that's a great idea.
Well, it looks like we're out of time. Oh, sorry. Feel free, Cece, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just saying food for thought.
Yeah. If we come up with anything, we'll reach out. I just want to wrap up today by sharing our contact information. Oh, I didn't edit this slide. That's my bad. For you all to contact us. We don't know if there's another fitness roundtable scheduled, but hopefully there will be. Next week, we have our career development week hosted by NIRSA. So they will be taking over all of the Zoom for you next week. If you haven't heard, it's $30 for non-members, and it's free for members to jump on. They'll be talk to a pro, talk to a GA. So encourage your student staff to come. There'll be resume review and mock interviews, and a bunch of different sessions about becoming a better interviewer, a better applicant, and just more prepared for any potential job search that you might have in the future. Whether you're a professional or not, you'll probably have interviews for something, so it doesn't hurt to sharpen those skills. Everyone keep your head high, and we hope that we have more of these roundtables. They've been really awesome and helpful, especially for myself in learning more things as I navigate into the future. So if there's another one, we'll continue to post about it, but you can check this one out when it's posted on the website in probably a day or two, maybe by Monday, with the full chat and everything. So thanks for joining us today. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.